Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mrs. Lamia. I'm an English teacher. And today's session, we're going to be taught how to use effective phrases and words that can describe the mood and the atmosphere inside a story. Most of the students, they come and tell me that they find it difficult to write a story. They don't know from where to start. Number one, I want you to know that you need to hook the reader inside your story. You need to have a catchy start. In order to have a catchy start, you should follow some of the steps. Amongst these steps are the atmosphere. I want you to know how to describe the atmosphere with a good, effective phrases, good, effective words that can take your English to the next level. You have to replace all the simple vocabulary, the known words, the familiar words that you know in the primary stage. And now let's move to the next level. Let's enhance our style in the writing essay. Effective phrases describe the mood here. Number one, we have the phrase, it was a breezy, calm night. Instead of saying it was a calm night, it was a normal night, you have to refer to the atmosphere. Maybe the atmosphere is cheerful. Other times you want to have a sinister or an eerie mood in your story. And what actually decide on the tone you're writing in is the atmosphere, the surroundings. For example, if I intend to write a horror story full of suspenseful events, full of, jump scares, stuff like that, you should do the following. Here you go. In a chilly, overcast night, or it was a breezy, calm night when, and then I continue the rest of the introduction. So number one is to refer to the weather, maybe the atmosphere, the weather, the sun, the sky, the clouds, the moon. We got many things to describe the weather with and to start the story with. A tranquil, balmy, cheerful morning. This is another phrase that describing cheerful atmosphere or mood. Lightning and thunder raged with fury. Okay, let's say that the word raged with fury is here a personification, because usually when people are raged with fury, they are very angry. So if we tell that the clouds or even lightning and thunder, the sky is raged with fury, they are angry. And this means that the things are not going to be okay afterwards, because it's reflected upon the universe or the atmosphere around the characters in the story. The moon was large and it bathed the earth with its luminous glow. Let me say that there isn't any other source of light except for the moon. Fine? So we say that the moon was large, it was full, and it bathed the earth with its luminous glow. Here I want you to notice the adjectives that describing the atmosphere, because little details of atmosphere will take your mark to the next level. It will upgrade it and you will gain credit. So luminous is an adjective, means shiny, means luminous, means sparkling. And here large is, of course, a common usable adjective you all know. And here in the second phrase, ominous black clouds covered the sky and released shower. So ominous is a new adjective today. Here we go with the red marker. I'm going to underline it now. Ominous. When something is ominous, it's threatening. Something that puts you under threat. Like the guy gave me an ominous look. So here, ominous black clouds covered the sky and released a shower. This is a metaphor and indicates here that it was raining heavily or bucketing down rains, maybe pouring down rains. And the idiom here, you might use idiom because idiomatic expressions are good when it comes to informal writing, especially when you describe the weather. You can say it's raining cats and dogs. It was bucketing down rains, here you go, and pouring down. You can say bucketing down, you can say pouring down. Here is how we use the collocation or the colloquial language. Next is some beams were slanting through my shutters like Okay, you start the story here peacefully, talking about the routine, daily life style. Like you used to get up to the bird sounds, chirping. When it means bird chirping means they are singing or twittering. And some beams were slanting through my shutter or window shutter. It means that the sun rays here, you got reflected on your bedroom through the shutters and wake you up, maybe causing you a sore eye in the morning. The howling of wind frightened us all. This is a very good start because, you know, the strong wind caused creepy sounds, which is the howling sound, like the howling wolf, the howling wind we saw. We described the howling wind as something frightening, of course. Another start can be on a wintry night, because wintry is the adjective of winter, and it's a good one to use in here. Streets were desolate. Here we started talking about a very gloomy atmosphere, empty of people, empty of green color. The atmosphere is not verdant at all. It hasn't got any green colors, no verdant green areas. The green color is not there. So maybe the trees are leafless. Maybe you're talking about a barren or bleak landscape. So streets were desolate, and it was as silent as the graveyard. It was silent. Silent as the graveyard. This is a simile, a useful expression to use. Sometimes we use the simile technique in our writing because it's very good to use figurative language inside your essays, especially when it comes to descriptive details, like it was as silent as a graveyard. My friend's face became as white as a ghost, means she was pale out of fright. I can say as well, the room was clean as a whistle. The room was as clean as a whistle. It was as dark as coal. So we use simile sometimes to compare things and make the reader understand it or grab the information so fast and grab the mood so fast. Here we go. How to hook the reader. You have to engage the reader's senses, and this is a must while writing a story. If you would like to have a good mark or a high mark, you should engage the reader's senses, especially when it comes to gloomy stories that tackles horror scenes or that has a horror plot inside. So to hook the reader, you should engage the senses of the reader. You should have catchy starts. As I told you before, at the beginning of the session, we said that atmosphere is really fundamental here. So maybe sights. You use the sights. You can tell the reader what you see inside or what you saw inside the story. Here we go. Sounds. Things that have a thing to do with your ear. Things that has to do the thing with your eye. Sights by giving descriptive details, and I will tell you how now. And sounds like an onomatopoeia, and it's a very common thing in stories. It hooks the reader, plus it's like adding spices to the story. It makes the reader visualize the events more and make him feel like in the character's shoe, like he can experience everything that he reads. Okay? Sights by giving descriptive details. How? First, how to describe the street you're walking through, the house. Maybe you were about to explore a haunted house or a mansion that is abandoned long time ago in your neighborhood or near the residence house you're living in, and you decided to go with a friend to this house at night, maybe to explore it out of boredom. You're bored, you have nothing to do, and you started to write a story like that. I made up my mind that I will go at midnight behind my parents, knowing it, and I will go to explore this haunted mansion. So the first thing here you have to describe is the mansion itself. The mansion or the house. Usually Victorian old houses are creepy, having creepy architecture that is very attractive to the eye. It coats our eyes, and most probably it's cliched or stereotyping thing to have a Victorian abandoned house that is needed to be explored or is said to be believed to be haunted. So I can say that the house was Victorian, okay, abandoned house. It had a grotesque architecture with a gargoyle at the top of it. So let me introduce some of the vocab here. Abandoned means uninhabited long time ago. It's deserted. Nobody lives in it. But the grotesque architecture here, which is it's a kind of architecture that is creepy. It's full of, ghoulish statues or creepy figures. That sculpture that is sinister. And grotesque is a good word to use in the story, a good adjective. Abandoned or deserted is a good one as well. Gargoyle is a noun, of course, and it's, the creepy, well-known monster statue we all know at the top of the house. Like, imagine that the house is gabled like this, okay, and the gargoyle was at the top of it. So actually, when you see the site of this architecture or a grotesque house, a great sense of apprehension or like a premonition of fear will pervade your senses before entering the house. Like you will not dare to enter after seeing or step inside the house after seeing this architecture. Here you go. I want you to use all of these adjectives while describing. See how I hook the reader now? I will make him visualizing what is going on, and I will make him visualize the sites and the buildings as if he is or she's there with me. Number 3 here. Sorry, 1 because I skipped 1. It's 2. The house was Victorian, abandoned house. It had a grotesque architecture with a gargoyle at the top of it. Number 1, I can say this is something describing the atmosphere outside even before entering the house. Assume there was the sight of a full moon in the sky and it was a pitch black night that you cannot see the back of your hands. The only source of light is coming from the moon. And you say that the silhouettes of bats across the full moon give me goosebumps. And here, the statement actually is triggering me to tell you that we have to brainstorm what items and surroundings might be seen in a horror fiction or in a horror story. So if we brainstorm, let's think about the stereotyped horror feature found everywhere, like in American films or horror flicks. We can see full moon, we can see haunted mansion, we can see barren landscape, desolate gardens, no green area. You can see apparitions. We can talk about cobwebs, spider webs dangling down the ceiling. We can think about maybe an attic, a basement that is haunted, a staircase that creaks all the time. So we will think about all the repetitive common features of the horror story before even writing. So number 3 here is doors creak. Here you go. Owls hoot, bats screech, lights flicker, thunder rumble, cat sirens or cat meowing. So all of these things you might encounter in a horror story or in a horror experience. I know that the story should be made up, okay? So, and it gave us a huge chance actually to invent something which is not real. So you can go to the extra mile with your imagination. Go the extra mile while explaining things you see inside the story. The silhouettes of bats across the full moon gave me goosebumps. When your skill prickles, it's called goosebumps. And usually we experience goosebumps when we are very scared or shocked in a state of surprise. So our skin prickled. And it's a good way to say I was extremely afraid. Another way to have a good story written is using the technique of show, don't tell. Because show, don't tell is a very professional style in writing. And instead of saying I was scared, I was shaking, I was afraid, the poor things that people used to write in their story, and it's boring, by the way, you can show or write phrases that can show your fear instead of saying that I'm afraid, because they use the same technique in the reading section. Those who are taking checkpoint or IELTS, sometimes the meaning is hidden in between the lines. So you need to become well armed with vocabulary, expressions, and idioms that is enhancing and boosting your language. So the silhouettes of bats. Silhouettes means that the black point outlines of bats, like shadows. You don't see, you can barely see the features of it, but you can see the outline. The outer outline of a thing is called the silhouette, and it's a good thing, a good word to use actually. It's a very effective word. The silhouettes of bats across the full moon gave me goosebumps, or make my skin prickled, because this is the synonym of goosebumps here. The house was Victorian, abandoned as I said, and it had a grotesque architecture. And notice here that all the tenses are in the past. 3. Doors, creak, owls, hoot, batch screeds. All of these things can lie under the category of onomatopoeia, which is the thing related to the sound. So, if I open the door, it might creak. Okay, so that's why horror movies and stories are full of staircase creak or doors creak. Sometimes door creak open and then slam shut by itself. And here also in the language we call these as collocation. Collocation in the English language is a must. Even when you speak or write, both ways you're gonna use collocation in order to sound fluent, in order to sound natural and smooth talker. Synonym for the word scary. Instead of saying scary, I can say eerie, spooky, creepy, apprehensive. Like at the sight of this apprehensive scene, I decided to withdraw or drag my feet and flee. For example, instead of saying escape, I can say flee. Okay, and the past of flee is fled. Like I rushed out of the building at the sight of this monster approaching me, for example. And here, some synonym for the word scary, which will be very effective in your writing and it will upgrade your level. The word apprehensive, spooky and creepy. I think many people are familiar with these words, but the apprehensive, sinister, gruesome, and grisly are very good words describing a horror atmosphere. The word scary now is dead. We don't want to need it anymore. We just want to upgrade using these words. Spine chilling usually is used when you describe a horror flick, a horror movie. And the other one is nerve-wracking. And here is the word intimidating and alarming. When something is alarming, it's very creepy. And by the way, I can actually cross the ing and put ed if I'm talking about my condition, my state at this horror moment. So I can say I was intimidated by the silhouette of this shadow, or I was alarmed when I see these, bloody footsteps or fingerprints on the wall, for example. Yeah, amongst the features we talked about, we have to add like 2 more features. If you just taken down notes right now about the features, we can add bloody footsteps. Like I intended to follow some bloody footsteps going down the attic, the basement, or going up the attic. I can see some creepy scratches on the wall or some creepy curvings on the wall. So spine chilling, nerve-wracking experience, intimidating figures, and alarming maybe experience. So these are the words that I want you to know today. And those who would like to reap the best benefits out of this course or take advantage of this session is to put every single word I wrote on the board, and you try to make your own sentences using my new words. Lastly, the idioms describing fear. It's good to describe idioms to describe your feeling using idioms, and I think we got fluent people are the ones who are able to describe using many ways, like vocab, synonyms, idioms, phrasal verbs, and idioms, especially when it comes to informal writing or stories, like the fiction ones. So instead of saying I was afraid or extremely afraid, terribly scared, I can say this word first, which is jumpy or jittery. Both mean scared. Okay? The idioms, my heart was in my mouth, my heart skipped the beat, my heart was thumping or pounding like a drum. A shiver ran down my spine, I jumped out of my skin. So these are 5 idiomatic expressions describing fear. And it's good actually to put them at the beginning of the sentence, and then you say when I see, when I spotted, when I eyed. So not only stick with the verb see because it's boring. Spotted, maybe, eyed. Caught sight of, okay? Like I caught sight of a big sew, bloody sew, placed on the table, and my heart was in my mouth. Okay? My heart was thumping like a drum, so everyone was hearing it, or to the extent that people can hear it. And here you go, it's like we hit two birds with one stone by bringing up a synonym and using it in an idiom. A shiver ran down my spine when I saw silhouettes of bats crossing across the full moon, okay, at night. I can say I jumped out of my skin when the door slammed shut by itself. Shaking like a leaf, comma, what happened? This is a very good technique in the writing section. I can start with my state at this moment, and then put the comma, and then continue the sentence. Trembling with fear. Trembling, by the way, is a synonym for the word shake. Shake, tremble, quiver, shiver. 4 synonyms you might use in the writing. So trembling with fear, I called my parents, but there was no signal. So I was rooted to the ground, paralyzed with fear and trembling in my shoes. Or like shaking like a leaf, trembling in my shoe. It can work in here. But notice the comma after the phrase. After the idiom, most probably we're using the idiom in the beginning, so we need to put the comma right after it and then continue what we want to say, because grammatically and structurally, this is the most accurate way to use it in the writing. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to utter a single word. Paralyzed here with fear is a good expression to use, because you know the sleep paralysis, of course, or when you experience a paralysis, you're unable to move body parts out of fear. Unable to utter a single word because it's not clear in here. I'm going to write it here again. Utter means say. That's it for today. Thank you so much, and hopefully you find this session very effective, and it might help you when you write your story, especially when creating a good mood, a hotter mood, of course, a scary, a sinister atmosphere, and you better study well before words are piling up in the next session.